Hello friends, welcome to the part 2 of the series. In this video we are going to cover these 7 points. The first point is the solution of previous two question. From the previous video we have this code and the question was to give a blank line before this statement and after this statement. So for the before thing we just put a slash in here. We are going to save this file. We just compile this and a.out file created and we just run this. So here you can see there is a one blank line above this message and one below this message. For the second part we just comment this, we copy this thing. So in C the comment is denoted by this double slash. So this part will never be read by the compiler, so it is useful for writing a message for better understanding of the code. So for the second part we just write this. The second part says to message with one line empty in between. So this is my hello world one, and this slash n will give us one line at the end of first statement and hello world 2. So once I save this file, I just clear this gcc .c a.out. So here you can see there is a hello world 1 and hello world 2. To provide an extra line in between them, just give slash n here also and just compile this and run this. So here you can see there is this empty space in between these two lines. So for the second point, it's a data type. So in C we have mostly many data types, but we generally use these three. The first one is an int, which is used for the integer number like 1, 2, 3, -1, -2, -4. It can be a positive or a negative number, but it shouldn't contain any decimal point. For the decimal point we have a floating numbers which is denoted by a float. A number like 1.02, 0.05, -5. Again a positive and negative number both. And the last one which we are going to use very dominantly in this programming is character. So characters like ABCD can be denoted or can be stored with the help of this char keyword. So moving on. Now the question is how we declare a variable and how to utilize them in my code. So in C, the variables are declared as data type, since we already see the data type which is int, float and char, followed by a space and then the variable name. Variable name can be anything, but you have to remember these 4 points in mind before writing any variable name. So it must be started with a character or underscore. There should not be any special character like these special character, only underscore is permitted. It can only contain number or underscore or character. Certain variable names are not allowed, like float. You cannot write like float space float, or you cannot write anything which is already predetermined in a C programming language. So for the coding purpose, I'm using another IDE like ideon.com. It's an online compiler. So once you selected, so by going this on this link ideon.com, so by default it will give you, if it give you like Java or C, you just selected C from here. So it already fill the code with these lines. So we all know like this is the header part. It's very simple to use, and this is my function part. Now we have to declare two variables. Suppose two integer variable like int. So for define two variables of an integer type, we are using int. Then we write a variable name. It can be anything. Let's say var1. So if you want to write any value into a var1, you just give is equal, and like you can write 12 or 13, anything, and you just put semicolon after this. So it means a 13 will be stored in a memory of an integer type which is denoted by this variable. So this var1, so whenever my program call var1, it will go into a memory and find out this number there. Similarly, another variable like var2, and I will denote initialize it with value 10. So with the help of this two var1 var2, we can identify it contains a value like 13 and 10, both are of the integer type. For making a float variable like float var, we can write down it as a 1.04, or we can even write it as, we just copy this, float var 1, let's say 10. Similarly, for the character type, we write just char, a variable name like char variable. In this, we can write any alphabet like D followed by semicolon. So this variable, so this character should be written within these colons. Suppose I want to give some string. A string is not nothing but actually a collection of a single characters. So suppose string var, so we have initialized these 6 variables. So to print these 6 characters, we can use similar printf statement. So in this printf, now we have to do something special. We are not just writing a message, we are also printing the values of these variables. So I'm going to write like value of var1 is, so, and the value is stored in var1. Now to tell the compiler to print the value of var1, we have to specify where it has to store this var1. So in C, the integer variable can be format specified with the help of %d. So %d is for the int. Similarly, %f is for float. And similarly, %c is for char. Now, in printf statement, we have to write what kind of value you want to print. So var1 is of type int, so we are going to use %d. We are using a /n to make output a little better. We'll copy this thing. We are going to print the same thing. So var1 and var2 both are of %d, means integer. Now float var is of type float, so we are using float var, and float var1 with the help this %f. Similarly here also we are just making things correct. And my character, this char var is of type char, so we just copy this, and this is my string var. Here I'm going to change it with a C. So this is my char var, and this is my string var, string variable. So once it is written, we just run this with the help of this little green button in the corner. Okay, so here you can see the output is coming. So you can see 13 and 10 is printed as it is. Float var 1.04 is printed with the trailing zeros at the end. So this is a floating characteristic. So what float do? It will modify the decimal part and append zeros to make it 6 digit. Similarly, float var1, it is 10, there is no trailing zeros, so it will append 6 zeros at the end. Similarly with the char var, since it is percentage %c and we have printed as d, so it is taking d. However, you can see the change here at this line. We give the string variable as jack, J-A-C-K, but what happened? It only printed k. So this is the quality of char. It will only take a single characteristic because the size a char can store is only of 1 unit. 1 unit means it can only store a single character, not all. So when I declared this variable string var, first of all j is written over this, and then once it find out okay a is after this, so it overrides j. Again it c overrides a and k overrides c. So the final value in the string var is only k. So here you can see it only printed k. Now moving on this next part, we are going to write a basic program to find sum of two numbers. Since we already know how to declare a variable and how to initialize them, this question is fairly simple. So we just go at the top, we just edit this. Okay, so we are in edit, so I'm just deleting this part and this part. So now I have only two variables, var1 and var2, and a printf statement. So I'm just modifying this print statement. Sum of var1 and var2 is %d, because we know once we add these two integers 13 and 10, the output will which is again an integer type. So the summation of two integers is always an integer. So we can just write var1 plus var2. So this is one of the way to get the sum without using any temporary variable. So I just add on it, and here you can see the sum is 23 again. Now if I'm going to use a temporary variable, I have to write it as int sum. I have to put sum is equals to var1 plus var2. It's very similar to like 10. I'm writing 10 plus 13, and whatever the answer is, put it in sum. So it will add 10 plus 13 and put that value into the sum. Sum is again an integer kind of memory, and here I'm just move it to the sum. So again if I'm adding on it, again the same result. So this is with the help of a temporary variable, and the first part was without using any temporary variable. For the better practice, coding practice, we always initialize it with the 0 so that we cannot get any garbage value in output. So this part is necessary for the good coding practices. Now the next part is taking input from the user. So this is what we already done. We already use printf statement, which is actually to show the output over the screen. We never did anything, we never take anything from the user. Now moving on to the next part, which is taking input from the user. Till now we are not taking input from the user, we just directly assign a variable with the numbers. So for taking input from the user, we are going to use a header file stdio.h, which is a standard input output file, and within this stdio.h we have this function scanf. So I'm going to use this stdio.h, so hash include stdio.h. so this is my header part, and for the function part I have int main. I'm declaring two variable, int var1 and var2. So here I'm declaring two variable, var1 and var2, within a single line. Both are type integer. We can do like this also. And I'm declaring one more variable, int sum, which is a temporary variable, and assigning it to the 0. So now we have to take the input from the user. So before that we have to print an statement for the user so that he can identify that he have to give input through his keyboard. Enter var1 value. Now we are going to use scanf. So the scanf will take what kind of value you want to store and where to store. So scanf will take the value from the keyboard of integer type and store in a var1 address denoted by this var1. Similarly, we can just copy this thing here and print it here. So var2 and where to store var2. Now we can just write sum equals to var1 plus var2, a normal way to write, and then again printf sum is percentage %d, since here the sum is also integer kind, and print sum return 0. So this is the basic code. Now I'm going to compile it. So once it is compiled successfully, I'm going to write. So it is asking me to enter the variable value. So I'm writing 10. For the var2, I'm writing 3 or 13. So you can find the sum is 23. Again, I haven't put /n here. So now it will give this dollar in the next line, and you can see the sum is 23, which is the same thing if as the previous answer. So even we can write as var1 equals to 10 and var2 equals to 30. So this thing is good in those programs where we want to take the input from the user. Similarly, for the floating point, what we can do, we can just comment this line. We will declare a new variable of the floating type var1 and var2. Now this sum will again goes to float type. Here we are going to use %f, %f, and here also we are just write to %f. So once I compile this program and run it, so enter the value 10 and 13. So now here you can see it is 23.000, which is a floating result. So moving on to the next part, which is sum of the two number by taking input from the user. So this example is for the same sum of the two number by taking the input from the user. We are taking the input here scanf statement and printing the sum. Now move on to the next part, which is function in C. So function. So this main is also a kind of function, but it's not a user defined. It's already a C guideline to use main. So in C, we can write the function as, so here I'm writing a prototype of this function, a return type followed by a function name followed by a round brackets, any values that you want to the pass to the function, let's say arguments, followed by function body. So this is a basic prototype of any function in C. So you can match this thing with here also. So the return type of the main is int, the function name is main, followed by the round bracket without any arguments, and the body is in curly braces. So I'm going to write a function which returns nothing for the basic simplicity of this code. My function name is add number. I'm passing that thing this. So for this, what I can do is I can call this function here. So for calling the function, just copy this thing and paste it here. That's it. So once my compiler go to this line, it will see, okay, add number is followed by this thing, so it's a function and it will directly jumps to this point. So suppose I'm going to just comment this code. So I'm just going to comment, so I'm just going to remove this code for better code understanding. Okay. So since it is not giving anything, so I'm just I'm also removing this line, and I'm just calling this function as add number. So now in main, once my compiler go this point add number, it will go to this point directly, this function directly. Now here I'm writing two things: int a is equals to 10, b is equals to 23. I'm writing a printf statement. Sum is a plus b. This is equals to b. So this goes here, and a percentage d goes here. So this is a very simple code using the function. So I'm just going to compile this, and I'm just trying to run this. So here it is giving me 33, which is 23 plus 10. The one more thing that you can do here, you can just change this void with the integer and return this value a plus b from here. So there's no need to get this statement here. We can just write this statement here, and we can just call add number within this printf statement. So again what it will do is it will go to the print statement, it will print this sum is, and then it goes to the percentage d and jump to add number. It sees whether, oh, it's a function, it will jump to this add number, it will take a is equals to 10, b equals to 23 and return this a plus b, which is actually 33. Since the return type is integer, so it will return this 33 at this point, and the percentage d help printf statement to print it. So now suppose I'm just doing this gcc, and if I run this again, the sum is 33. So with the help of function also we can do this. So the advantage of using function is modularity of the code and the easy readability. So this is a very simple function in which we are not passing any values. So this is the basic example of a function. So for the better practice, I'll put two questions. So here we are using just a plus b. So instead of a plus b, return multiplication of, let's say, 3 number instead of 2. And the question 2 is return a float summation of 3 numbers. So both are a very easy question, and in the next video I'm going to show the solution of these two questions. So that's all for this video. Thank you.